Yeah, it's there. It's there. Hey, welcome to the Odd, Unexplained, and Top Secret. Today we're going to be talking about strange Pennsylvania. And the reason I chose Pennsylvania is just because it's the state that I live in. It's what I know. Just trying to get the light here. Yeah, and this is kind of like a last minute type of thing because I literally walked through the door from work 20 minutes ago. So I ran a different route last week, and it kind of got me all out of sorts. So, but the reason I chose that was because of this book, Weird Pennsylvania. I had this book before, and I got rid of it for some odd reason, and I just bought it back. So, but there's all kinds of stuff in here. Go to back here to the beginning and see what we got here. Trying to find the one here. As soon as I find it, we're going to talk about the Green Man for a couple minutes anyway. So how's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully you had a better day than I did. Okay, Pittsburgh's Green Man, which this is somebody I actually have met. I've met this dude. Talked to him a couple times. I used to deliver parts for Saturn, and he didn't live that far from one of the garages I was delivering to while they're rebuilding a car from an accident. Okay, the legend of the Green Man has been a favorite in the Pittsburgh area for decades. Somewhere in greater Pittsburgh, as the story goes, a man suffered a massive jolt of electricity. He was a West Mifflin or Dravosburg man working for the power company, and he was struck by lightning or shocked by a down power line during a storm. Whatever the cause, all agree that the unfortunate man suffered terribly as a result. His skin turned green, and his face was horribly disfigured, with the features melded together. Some say the sparks put a hole through one of his cheeks. I don't recall that, but I'm not saying it didn't happen either. Depending on who's telling the tale, the Green Man either died immediately, no he didn't, so all subsequent sightings were of his ghost, or survived and hid out in a boarded up house. Actually, he lived a normal life. Hey, what's up, Tessie Bushcraft? Either way, he comes out only at night when there's little danger of his being seen. Those that do see him, however, are morbidly fascinated by his disfigurement and by his habit of smoking cigarettes through the hole in his cheek. Again, I didn't see that. A variant story gives late night thrill seekers a place to look for the green glow of their hero's skin. The accident took Thank you, Phone. The accident took place near one of the many abandoned railroad tunnels in greater Pittsburgh. And that's where the man ran after his accident. They say that if you drive to the tunnel late at night, turn off your car's headlights, and call him, he will approach and touch your car. The trouble with this is that the electricity he still carries within him will mess up the electrical system in your car, and you won't be able to restart it. Right. Many different locations are touted as the site of the Green Man's Tunnel, but the most popular is in South Park Township, just off Snowden Road. The tunnel is officially called Piney Fork Tunnel on the abandoned Peters Creek branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad. Though it is currently used by the township for storing rock salt for snowy days, it is slated to be part of the Rails to Trails bike trail network. Let's hope bike lamps don't suffer the same fate as your car's electrical system after the Green Man's touch. There's some truth and some not so much in that. As I said, the guy that I met, um, I seen him in the daytime. Now he was green, his face was melted. Same thing. He actually told me what happened to him. He says, "Yeah, I was working on a pole and I got electrocuted, and this is what happened. But I survived." And he wasn't a monster. People weren't afraid to be around him. He's how can I put this? He was kind of like a celebrity hero. I wouldn't say a celebrity, but like a folk hero of sorts. People would talk to him. He talked to them. He'd go down to the store, what have you. And he lived on disability in a regular house. So a lot of this you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. What else we got down here? I'll go to ancient mysteries. Now this would kind of fit into what I was talking about last week with the Native American stuff. Um, this is called the Allegheny River Gods. Now I'm not going to read it. I do know a little bit about it though. Is along the Allegheny River. I think it's along the Justice, a trail that they call the Justice Trail, and it's named after uh, somebody who settled up there by the name of Justice. Not Buford T, though. Okay, let's get that straight. But there's petroglyphs, and those petroglyphs date back to well before the Europeans were here. Um, before we had the French and Indian War, when white man was up there and they were kind of friendly with the Indians at the time, or the Native Americans at the time, they asked about them. The Native Americans were like, "We didn't make those; those are here when we got here too." So, but the interesting thing is, it shows them hunting, shows some of the animals. Um, Many different things. Now, some people have this idea that some of these are hieroglyphics, like Egyptian hieroglyphics. Oh, I hear you there, Tennessee Bushcraft. I mean, I know a guy, I used to work for a bakery equipment company. We'll get onto that before I get back into this, but we used to use three phase. Now, what the voltage is on three phase, I have no idea. But he would sit there to find the hot wire. He would sit there, lick his fingers, and grab it. I'm like, "Are you stupid? Are you dumb?" I think that's why half the time when he was walking around, his eyes were going, "Eat it, Joe's, eat it, Joe's, eat it, Joe's, eat it, Joe's." Yeah, but back to petroglyphs, they're rather interesting. Now, unfortunately, with these petroglyphs, a long time ago, not so much now, but a long time ago, they were defaced. There's like in some areas where these petroglyphs are, there's people's initials now. Um, oh, I got you. Okay, yeah, I've been to the Susquehanna River like once or twice. Interesting place. Interesting river. Up in Pennsylvania, it's up by Chickies Rock, and yeah, I'm just he's grabbing the wires, figuring out which one's hot. I'm just like, whatever. I just threw my hands up, whatever, dude. It's your little swimmers, not my little swimmers. My little swimmers are just fine. But the thing I find interesting about the Susquehanna River, getting back to that, up by Chickies Rock in Pennsylvania, is when you look at the river's very shallow there, And the rocks, instead of being like this, they're kind of up on edge. Hey, Lou. Hey, Nature Girl, how y'all doing? But there's about the petroglyphs, and they're on the Allegheny River up by Franklin. There's also some in Safe Harbor in Lancaster County. Now, I don't know exactly where those are at. And those, they have a picture of them in here as well. And they look a little bit more like Egyptian hieroglyphs, but they're not. Then there's the Stone of the Rising Sun, which is that's also very interesting. Because this one actually has writing on it. And I can't really see what it is, but it's not Native American writing. It is some other language, which is something that I think right here in Trento's 1978 book, The Search for Lost America, he describes finding the site depicted on the stone using the position of the sun at the winter solstice. The ruins of what may have once been a chamber are nearby. The stone then appears to be some kind of marker for European travelers, something like an advertising flyer for the house of worship. Here's what I find interesting about that, and I don't know if we'll pick it up here, but the picture's right there, and you can kind of see the sun and the hills and everything. They probably did. But in Pennsylvania, long before it was colonized, it was known that the Jesuits were here. This could be some kind of Jesuit type of deal. Oh, that's cool, Tennessee. Then there's these piles of rocks, and I found what I think was a couple of them. It's an area I want to go back to, and there's like a European homestead that was built around them. But I found piles like this. It's not just a pile of rocks. The way they're made and the way they're sitting in there, they're meant to sit just like that. It was meant kind of brought up in a cone, and it kind of domes off at the very top. Here's another one here that looks like it was knocked down. And I want to get back into this because there's sites like this all over Pennsylvania and New England that have these. There's one site that a man found that had, I think, 28. These are called cairns. Had 28 of them. And the interesting thing about them is most of them, they took a couple of them apart, piece by piece. They cataloged where every stone went. But when it got to the bottom to the center, they're finding large pieces of quartz and flint like this. So they think they had some kind of ceremonial use of some sort. Yeah, here's more of them here. In fact, I think this might be the site of Susquehanna County. Another picture of a different set of them right there. Yeah, we have a lot run around. We have a lot run around in our woods too, and some of them are flooded out with like Moraine State Park, but a couple of the other ones, The one hiking trail they have in Marine State Park goes right. It's named for that homestead. You walk right through the middle of it, and there's these stone fences and foundations and all kinds of stuff. Eventually, I would like to get up to that area and like map that whole area with my GPS. Mark where each of the foundations are. Mark the path of each of the quote unquote stone fences, which is basically about a between a 1 to 2 foot tall pile of rocks that goes along a field. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. You just have to know where to figure out where to look for that. And to find some of these homesteads, if you use Google Earth, um, there's an area in Marine State Park called Swamp Run. Now, I was looking on Google Earth in that area, and the thing I found out where a lot of these homesteads are, because what I'm looking at, I'm actually looking at the canopy, the top of the canopy in Google Earth. You'll find a single pine tree, just one single pine tree out in the middle of nowhere. Find that pine tree 9 times. I won't say 9 times, but probably 50%, 50% of the time, if you find that lone pine tree, you're going to find the remnants of something. I went to one, I found a spring, um, and a couple other odds and ends, but I didn't really find a foundation. But I left that one, went to another one that I knew of, and I found 4 outbuildings and the foundation of a house. Oh yeah, a little interesting fact. Two of the worst floods, I just say dam breaches in the United States. I think at this time it wasn't the worst, but two of the worst was Johnstown and Austin. Yep. Um, it's not uncommon to find old spring houses and fruit cellars around here every once in a while too. Um, or I should say root cellars. There's another place here in Pennsylvania that they call Indian Steps. And it's on Standing Stone Path. Um, here's a picture of Indian Steps. They figured this is part of an old Native American trail. They don't know exactly who used it. Some believe that is the Kisha tribe. However, yeah. But that, and this is some of the stuff that we're probably going to be digging into a little bit more in future episodes. Another one, and they still haven't, they've known about it for years, and they still haven't figured it out. The Ringing Rocks of Buck County. It's a big boulder field right there. But if you hit the stones with a hammer, the stones will ring like a bell. They're not hollow. Um, they don't know exactly why they do that. So, something rather interesting. Hey, I know, I know. Dog wants some attention. Okay, we're on to like interesting places and people here. And all over Bucks County, you'll find these pyramids. Now, the very first time I read this book, I thought, hey, what's up? What's up, Uncle Al? I thought it was an old iron furnace because there's iron furnaces in southwestern Pennsylvania that look a lot like this. But this is some kind of church of sorts. And this one here is said to be Rosicrucian. So yes, as I said, something to dig into. Then there's the Lost Hills of Eternal Youth, which that's another interesting thing here. But in this area, they found this gold head in Pennsylvania, and Cortana is going to pop up now. Oh, joy. And of course, we're going to talk about the Amish because everybody thinks the Amish is strange. Yeah, but there's a ton of things in here. To talk about hauntings. The night the sky fell in Kecksburg, which they think was a UFO. And the beast. Yeah, and one of those beasts, yes, is Bigfoot. Go figure. That supposedly there's like a Loch Ness monster type deal in Lake Erie. This one's been confirmed. Pittsburgh's alligator population. Right there. Last year they caught 4 of them. That's confirmed. And they found out at least 3 of them came from somebody's house. Welcome to Pittsburgh, folks. Then you have Punxsutawney Phil in here. Everybody, hey Carol. Everybody knows who Punxsutawney Phil is. That's the road we want to kill every February 2nd. You know, Groundhog's Day. So yeah, this is like a very brief overview of some stuff that we'll probably be digging into somewhere down the line. There's a man here that made for at least 15 minutes, a perpetual motion machine. Well, not exactly perpetual motion if it only worked for 15 minutes. Just saying. Then they talk about personalized properties, and that's just, yeah. Nothing too strange there. Roadside oddities. Now, there is one thing that they have in here. There is a place in Milford, Pennsylvania, in Pike County, that has the actual flag that was hanging on the balcony where Lincoln was shot. Just something, I just found that rather, well, morbid, to say the least. Reading this. Okay. Here's one of those iron forges. It kind of looks a lot like that pyramid did right there. No, these are real things. I know where they're not all together, but I know where there was three of them sitting at. There's one that was over by Hereford Manor. There's one that was up in McCollum's Mills, and then there's one by Springfield Falls. Not in this shape. The one, in fact, the one in McCollum's Mills was tore down. It's completely gone. Just a couple rocks remain. That's it. The one in by Springfield Falls, they took the stone for something else, but the foundation still remains. And the other one that's over by Hereford Manor is there, but it's not like this. It's only maybe about, it only comes about up to here on me. Another interesting fact about Pennsylvania, talk about route numbers. Pennsylvania actually has a Route 666. I've been on it many times. It's actually, it's like, oh, it's a Devil's Road. Ah. No, it's actually a nice road to drive, to be honest with you. It is a very nice road to drive. Twisty as hell, but it's a nice road to drive. Nice scenery. We also have a couple, 2-3 different gravity hills too. I've been to the one out at North Park. What Gravity Hill is that one in North Park though. You actually drive down to a stop sign. If you put your car neutral, it'll roll up the hill. Well, with the pyramids, Uncle Al, I tried Nature Girl, and I said today was not the greatest day at work, and I'm kind of threw this together on the fly. So, but yeah, this book that I'll show you the book again. It's called Weird Pennsylvania, and I do believe they have these books for other states. But there is a myriad of interesting things on there, a myriad of stuff. And so that's why I'm just kind of just leafing through the book and talking about what I know about. And those gravity hills, hey Tibor, those gravity hills are interesting. They kind of freak you out a little bit because it's like you put the car neutral and the car starts drifting. You think it's going to drift through the stop sign and drifts the other way. It's like, what the hell? But they also talk about the quote unquote lost turnpike. The Pennsylvania Turnpike was kind of rerouted, and there's like about 3 or 4 tunnels on the turnpike that they no longer use. They rerouted around the tunnels and everything. And there is a company that does tours of these tunnels. Another interesting fact about these tunnels, one of them, even though he no longer owns it, I don't think he owns, no, he sold his NASCAR team. I think he still owns his IndyCar team. is Chip Ganassi bought one of those turnpike tunnels so he can do year-round testing. How he's going to do that, I have no idea. Because you're going to go barreling down the one side, even if they make a connector going from the eastbound lanes to the westbound lanes, it's going to be like almost like a 180-degree U-turn in the space of about 100 feet. Then you go zipping down the other way. Well, that they are. Another interesting thing is if you guys ever heard of the Western movie legend called Tom Mix. Tom Mix originally came from Pennsylvania. He was also, what the hell was his name? It was a lawman that got shot. Blah, 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 blah. Or he died. Wyatt Earp. He was one of Wyatt Earp's pallbearers when Wyatt Earp died. He came from Pennsylvania up by Driftwood. I know where the property is at. It used to have a museum on it, but it's now private property, and it is posted. Really posted heavily. So, but I've been by it. I know how to get to it. If you go back through my videos, I did a dirt road drive in one of my videos. The video itself, I think, is like an hour and a half. It was 2 hours long. And I stop at a bunch of different places and I explain each place. Some of the camera work is a little but I explain each place as I go. This is supposed to be a group thing, and exactly, Tennessee Bushcrafter, and it is very heavy in the Underground Railroad up here. Very heavy. Excuse me. Like a lot of places that I went to on the dirt road drive, some are fairly new, some are old. One of the places I stopped was one of the original Conservation Corps, Civilian Conservation Corps camps, the Triple C camps. Is on one of the roads that I drove on. Another place I stopped, I'm trying to think. Stopped at a couple waterfalls. Oh, there's another place. I cannot remember the name of the creek. It escapes me right now. But there's a splash dam on it. The splash dam was built in the 1850s, and there's still remnants of it that you could see. You don't have to walk up on it either. You can stand on the bridge, and it's 100 yards away, and you can see it. Some very, very interesting history. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ghost stories in here too. Some stuff from churches, prisons, yada yada. Now, the one place I'm surprised it did not make it in here that was supposed to be very haunted, but it is actually no longer stands. Um, oh, I hear you there, Tennessee. Yeah, like we don't have them out here, but I'm still thinking about hanging signs back in the woods. I'm like, if you can read this sign, you're in range. Just saying. Um, where was I? Yeah, you tell I'm tired because I can't keep a thought for more than 30 seconds. Oh, they also explore some cemeteries here too, and that is one thing I used to be into. Was I had a rundown in the older cemeteries. Look at the symbols that they put on the tombstones. And that was kind of tell you a story about who was buried there. Not just what their name was when they were born, when they died, but the symbolism will tell you like were they a good person, were they a bad person, um, were they kind, were they gentle, were they charitable, things like that. Oh, no kidding. That's cool. Yeah, like not too far, like maybe about a half mile from here, there's a Revolutionary War cemetery. Not revel. It wasn't. How can I put this? Because the Revolutionary War was not really fought around here at all. Maybe a skirmish or two, but one of the people that's buried in the cemetery is a Revolutionary War veteran, and I don't know who does it, but every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day, somebody puts a new flag. Somebody puts a new flag on that gravestone. Um, and the thing I find very interesting about it is when we first started noticing the new flags on a Memorial Day and Veterans Day, is that that cemetery is in the middle of the woods. Very few people knew about it. Come to now, present day, there's actually a housing development that butts right up against it. And the people from the housing plan, you think a new housing plan, and I'm not happy about the housing plan, don't get me wrong. But the people from the housing plan have cleaned it up a little bit and kind of made a little memorial area out of it. So I'll give them kudos for that. Oh, that's what I heard about Blue Ridge Parkway. Still going through some of this. Ah, abandoned places. There we go. Some of these abandoned places are very interesting too, like Frick's Lock. And of course, they talk about Centralia, which, at last I heard about Centralia, is now illegal to go there. Period. You used to be able to go to the Graffiti Road. You can't even go there now because they said it's too undermined from the fire. The story of Centralia is I think in the mid 70s, maybe early 70s. For some reason or another, they're trying to clean up the town and they had a bunch of tires in the dump. So, in order to get rid of the tires, they're going to light them on fire. Well, what they didn't know is the hole that the tires are in, but it exposed a coal vein. And when they lit the tires, it lit the coal vein as well. And that coal vein's been burning ever since. It still hasn't gone out. It's all be out in like 5 years. Well, let's just say it was 1975. 75 to 2000, that's 25 years. And from 2000 to now, 40 it's been burning for 47 years now, and they estimate now that it'll burn for about the next 250 to 500 years before it actually goes out. Supposedly. That's the idea anyway. So, yeah. But there's a couple resorts that have been abandoned. Eastern State Penitentiary. That's one of those places. over by Philadelphia that you can actually get a tour of and experience for yourself. Um, Looks like it'd be an interesting area. Then there's some underground subway stations that are no longer being used. Um, Also, the insane asylum in Philadelphia. And see, the thing about that is with those insane asylums, um, they're probably going to be haunted as well. And that's the end of the book. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this state that are really interesting. Some can't be explained, some can. Like the Green Man, I've met the Green Man. Um, in fact, I think he passed fairly recently of natural causes, oddly enough. Another interesting fact about Centralia, though, is the fire affected every single building in Centralia. There, yes, it is. Yeah, Pinehurst was, Dixmont was as well. Dixmont is no longer standing, but that was probably one of the more infamous infamous asylums here in Pennsylvania. It went from being an asylum to being a place for, how can I say, handicapped people to get help. And it really wasn't that great at that either. Um, so it had many, Dixmont had many uses. Pinehurst was about the same way. It had many uses, and usually along with those uses came a lot of abuses as well. Um, those early asylums in Pennsylvania, another one in West Virginia. I cannot remember the one in West Virginia, but there's one in West Virginia that was the same way. And they were just starting to understand the human mind and how it worked and how it could be affected. Um, Many asylums and places like that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, believed in electroshock therapy to quote unquote shock patients out of it, and it got brutal. Um, Lobotomies were also big too, and a lobotomy, I've watched a couple of them, like let's say reenactments of them. Ugh. What they did for those lobotomies is they looked like a nail that's about this long, and they would jam it in your tear duct past your eye up into your brain and literally kill off like the front lobe of your brain, and basically just turn people into mush, literally. Oh, that's cool, Tennessee. I'm not a big baseball fan, but that's cool. Hey, I'm all for that. Some of the other things around here, and I found one in North Park. I want to find the other two. There's North Park here around Pittsburgh has three quote unquote fountains of youth, and they're actually marked Fountain of Youth. Um, and what's weird about them is, as I said, there's three of them, and there is somewhat of it's not really a fountain, but it's a spring coming out of them. So, yes, this the same process, Tennessee, the same process. I found the get back to saying about the fountains of youth. I found the one. It's by the golf course in North Park. I'd like to find the other two, and once I find the other two, that's possible video material for stuff like this. Now it is part of the park that's been abandoned. Um, Tibor, okay, okay, Uncle Al. But I think those fountains of youth be a very interesting video because there's a lot of stuff in North Park that's been abandoned, forgot about, not torn down, but not completely torn down because a lot of the foundations still remain. But I know riding the trails in North Park, there are quite a few trails that you're well off the beaten path, and then you start finding picnic shelters. And the only way to get to that picnic shelter is to go down that trail. And they're not in the greatest shape. They're falling down. Some have roofs. Some all the only thing that's left is a concrete slab. So it North Park kind of went through a renovation, and when it came through when it went through that renovation, they completely redesigned the park and all the stuff that's kind of sitting off in the woods. They just left it there. It's cheaper to leave it there than it was to drag it back out. So, with that being said, you find all this stuff out just running around out there, and it's like, okay, hey, Tammy. And it's not the only park. I found stuff like that in Brady's Run Park. Um, I found an abandoned building in Brush Creek. It's an abandoned barn that's just over the property line. Yes, there are. Yeah, yes, there are, Uncle Al, but not the ones I'm talking about. The ones that Nestle have, I've seen their operation here in Pennsylvania. At one of them, they have one up in the mountains that they're actually getting spring water off of. It actually goes into a spring house, and the water goes through a couple goes through a physical filter, then a UV filter before it goes into a holding tank to go finish getting processed, which is rather interesting. I'm just like, okay. Um, like trying to think what else. Along the abandoned stuff, there's some other stuff that like even right behind my own house. I don't really have an explanation for it. The We have like one rock formation back there that's completely different from every single rock formation that is back there. Actually looks like it has like a little door going into it, but there's no door there. It just goes to a kind of a broken up background because all the rocks are like this. Now, if you look at the rocks around us, all the rock around the door is like that, but the rock is literally like this. Well, what I call the door. Um, it's kind of like one of those things that was it naturally like that, or did somebody actually build it that way? Oh, exactly, Tennessee. Um, the one thing I kind of want to do with that, and I do have the camera to do it, is I have what's called a borescope. But that borescope camera, I can sit there and just take it out and go like this, and you can see everything around you. This it's not just a little point. It kind of goes out and it's lighted. So I want to stick it in there and just see what I can find. See if there's anything back there. Because in a way, what that looks like is have you people ever heard of something called encasement? Encasement is a rather interesting deal. And it was an old form. It was an old form of execution, a very brutal form of execution, but it was a form of execution. What they did was is they make a hole like that in a cliff. They would stand the person up in there, or make the cavity just big enough for them to fit, but they couldn't quite sit down. They couldn't quite stand up. They were kind of like stuck in limbo. And then they put a wall up. Yeah, so do I, Tennessee. In fact, what I have to do with this camera is I'm trying to find an adapter because what the plug I have for it's for an Android, and the phone that I have now is takes the Type C. Yes, it's called encasing or encasement. Um, what they do is once they get you in there and they build that wall. Once you're done with the wall, they wait for it to dry, and when it dries, they walk away from it. They leave you there. That's it. You're done. Yep. If anything, that could have been a case of that down there. There's a local legend here. Now, I heard there's also the same legend down in Tennessee of Mike Fink, the riverboat captain. Now, what we found here, my cousins went looking for it, and I'm still trying to get a hold of them and see if I can get the paperwork that they had, if they still have it. They went down to the Ambridge Library and they actually found the newspaper articles written at the time of them going after Mike Fink for shooting somebody. Okay, Tennessee. So I have that much. Now, Fink back then was actually a very popular name, so I would discount the fact that there could have been two of them. Both of them could have been riverboat captains. Who knows? But the paper says that they pursued him, and when they caught him, they pursued him up what they call Big Swicky Creek to Little Swicky Creek. After going up Little Swicky Creek, it was one, two, three. The third, or I think it was the third hollow. The third hollow is the hollow that I live on. Hey, how you doing, Rachel? The third hollow is the hollow that I live on. That's if you ever watch my videos, me walk around behind my house, that's the third hollow. And that's where they caught him at. So I'm thinking he may have been encased back there. So that is a possibility. I'm not saying that's etched in stone, but that's a possibility. There's also right literally across the valley from there was a place that we called Mike Fink Cave that he supposedly lived at. Now there's a larger overhang that has since fallen, but there's an overhang there, a decent sized overhang. and it's not, that overhang wasn't easy to get to. So yeah, Poe was an interesting fella. And I tell you what, when it comes to Edgar Allan Poe, my favorite, though, it's a possibility, Uncle Wow. It's a possibility. That's why, but there's cracks on it. That's why I would stick that light in there first. I'm actually going to stick it in kind of with like a wire or a coat hanger or something so I can kind of control where it goes and see if I could see anything. If I could see anything worthwhile, then I may start trying to get into it. If I don't find anything worthwhile, I'm not wasting my time. Because there's still, I'm giving it 50-50 because a lot of the rocks that you find back there, especially when you get down to the valley bottom, is all sedimentary. That's still not to say that something could have got shifted on its side. But I have to dig into it because a couple of oak trees fell on it and it's like buried by oak logs right now. So there's that to deal with too. So I mean, if you know where to look, you could find possibly. There's another thing that I found, and I think I got rid of the picture. So I have to go digging for the picture again. But this is up in the mountains, up close to where my uncle's camp's at. On a cliff face, there's a carving of what they call the three-horned ram. Now, some people will tell you that was Native American. Way too ornate to be Native American because Native Americans did what they did their petroglyphs is more like stick figures. This is a very intricate carving. Don't know, Uncle Al. Oh, sorry to hear that, Belly. But where was I? Oh well. Okay, I'm lost now, but it's okay. But if you know where to look, but even around here, you can probably find stuff right outside your back door, literally. Um, we have an old abandoned homestead on the next property over back there too. A fairly on the other side of the valley. Oh, the ornate three-horned ram. Okay, that's right. Um, we're thinking because I brought that up in a couple forums of people who live up around there, and there's supposedly a couple more up in that mountain, up in those mountains. Because we found one just like that, but it was here, and we're trying to figure out what it all means. I'm thinking that could have been Jesuit, not UFOs, Jesuits, Jesuit priests. And you think the Civil War hauled around a lot of gold? Jesuits would make them look poor. Just saying. They had a lot of gold and they hid it all over the place. Now, where that ram's head's at, there's no place where you can really hide any gold. But the one thing we noticed is one eye was open and one eye was closed. Now, I'm thinking that if you go toward the way, if you triangulate everything right, because I said they found three of them up there. I bet you it's in a triangle, and that someplace inside that triangle, if there's gold, it's going to be in that triangle someplace. Like one thing I heard about Dents Run, which is up there too. If you ever heard of Dents Run gold, which we may delve into that here again. Before I started doing the odd unexplained and top secret, I did like 3 or 4 different live streams on the Dents Run Gold. I may delve into that again because the last I heard that the FBI did get gold. Now, what was lost and what they took, 2 completely different amounts. So I'm thinking if they found gold, they didn't find Civil War gold, they found Jesuit gold. And where Dents Run is in relation to where that head was, or that 3-horned goat, wasn't too far off. We're talking less than 10 miles, if not less than that, maybe 5. So there's all kinds of interesting things going on. When it comes to abandoned stuff up in the mountains, it's not. Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, Ben Franklin is kind of like the forerunner of Tesla. But up in the mountains up there, you'll run across a lot of brick kilns. Down along the rivers, there's brick kilns. I found, I think, the remnants. Well, one's a row of like 20. I think it's like 24 of them, and they're double decker. You got one up here, you got one down here, and it would feed charcoal to both of them. Found old mill site ruins like grist mills, stuff like that, because what you find of the foundation butts right up against the water, and there's actually like a walled water channel. There's also a couple of those. Well, there's at least one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 more foundations up in Moraine State Park, other than the mill that's up. They're working on getting operational again. There's another mill downstream. Right before you get to that mill, you'll find a park bench on the one trail. It's called the Killdew Trail. You'll find a park bench that's sitting right in the middle of a foundation. What that was, nobody really knows because nobody ever wrote about it. They wrote about the other mill that you find a little bit further down from that. Then once you go down past that, past Ecker Bridge, and keep going downstream, I found another foundation down there that nobody knew about. And I was like, yeah, there's a foundation down there. And they looked up the map, and there's something marked on the map. It just wasn't marked as to what it was. They knew there's something there, but they didn't know what to look for. I just happened to find a foundation that matched their map. So, and the map that they had was from like 1860 something. And what the map was is going down the Slippery Rock Creek of all the different places there were mills all the way down there. There's an old lime kiln down there that's highly known about. Don't you just love when that happens, Belly? I missed something here. Well, congratulations, Rachel. I'm sitting there just yapping away. I didn't even see you post anything about that. But congratulations about that. So everybody tell Rachel congratulations on going to become a mother in the near future. So trying to think, there's a bunch of other things. No, the one thing I have found when it comes to things that are abandoned, whether they're haunted or not, is if they're in a park, sometimes the park will use them. Brush Creek Park, which is just a county park, it's not a state park, it's not a national park, it's just a county park here in Beaver County, has the original covered bridge when that when there used to be a road that went through there. It was like a just like a regular road and had a covered bridge. The park kept the covered bridge and keeps the covered bridge repaired in good repair, so you can use it. It's part of the trail system now, so that's cool. Um, Trying to think, Economy Park doesn't have any. Oh, it has some old silver mines, which that's another one I like to dig into locally here. That's not in that book because Pennsylvania is not known for having silver or gold mines at all. But this one seemed to have silver mines. The odd part about the silver mines are, though, is when the economites came back from silver mines, and they'd only be gone like maybe a day, if that, because they're coming up from Ambridge, going to the silver mines to get silver to buy stuff. They'd always come back with coin. Doesn't that raise an alarm there someplace? Other than my phone going off again? Yeah, that's the other thing. In McCall's Mill State Park, they actually upgraded the cover bridge. It no longer has a wooden roof or wooden sides to it, or I should say a wooden outside to it. But they kept the framework and the planking. We have a cover bridge there that's open to car traffic, up to I think like 5,000 pounds, maybe 6,000 pounds. I've driven my Jeep across it many times. I have a little Jeep Renegade. It only weighs 3,000 pounds. I've driven across that bridge. I don't know how many times. I love that bridge. Absolutely adored that bridge. Um, Talking about McCall's Mills, I actually found a cave there. A couple caves. One is a very small little cave that I don't even think anybody even knows is there. And then there's another one in what they call the rock climbing area. I would like to eventually go into these caves as far as I can get and just see what's in there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to find nothing but junk, and because I know the one cave people already been through. The other cave I'm not so sure about, but the other cave is not area wise, maybe about half the size of this room and about half the height too. And it is literally one solid rock. That is what's so interesting about it. Not gonna go digging around in it, but so those little out of the way places like that you find are quite interesting to me as well. Um, the one that I found that's kind of like in that one piece of rock is literally when you're staying at the mouth of the cave, because you can see the rock from the road, and the rock like butts right up against the road, and it's only about 12 feet wide. So you're only standing 12 feet away from the road when you're going into this cave, but nobody knows it's there. You can neither confirm nor deny that, Tennessee. Um, Talking about bridges, we have a couple bridges around here that are supposedly haunted or possessed. There's one bridge that is on, I think it's Route 351 that goes over railroad tracks. And they said if you're walking it at night, the way the possession is the possession will possess you to try to jump off the bridge. I did not put that one to the test yet. Okay, well, Rachel rules. We also have a hollow here. The road goes down that a couple died in. That it's one of those hauntings that if you go down there at night, close to where they died at, you can still hear the horses going up the road. And there's a couple other places like that just here around Beaver County. Another hollow where the animals are possessed, and you can go any other place in Pennsylvania and see the same animals, and they won't pay any mind. But you go up this hollow and see any animal. We're talking deer, fox, coyote, you name it. They're going to come after you, supposedly. Yeah, that'd be a holler. Down in the holler. They done overturned the buggy down in the holler. And yes, just like down in Tennessee, Pennsylvania also had its fair share of rum runners and moonshiners and bootleggers. Being as where I live here in Pennsylvania, we ain't that far from West Virginia. Just saying. In West Virginia, that's all alive and well down there, now let me tell you. But another interesting fact that's not in that book is if you ever heard of a movie called Night of the Living Dead. In fact, now I think about it, I think it is in this book. It was filmed not that far from here. It was filmed in Evans City in Harmony by Zillion Opal. Um, so that's actually over Halloween for Harmony and Evans City. That's a huge draw. So it's I tell you what, right now, Tennessee, I don't get into the holler near enough. I need to get down. Need for it to quit snowing and raining and being cold and trying to freeze here. Welcome to Pennsylvania weather. Just from March, I should say about the middle of February to about maybe the beginning of May. It's psycho weather. It doesn't. It's Sybil. Our weather is Sybil. It need Mother Nature needs a flipping Xanax or a Zoloft or something because she a bipolar bitch. So what are you saying, Rachel? You kind of like me. You got yourself a nice little farmer stand going. Sorry, I had to. I had to. I had to. That's a bad joke, but I had to. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, because right now it's just. Now, here's the funny part. That was my right arm. Okay. Here's my left arm. My left arm's darker. You know why it's darker? I'm a delivery driver, and this is the arm that hangs out the window all the time during the summer. What kind of high did you get off a two pork butt? Oh, never mind. Bad pun. Bad pun. But trying to there's a lot of stuff around here. Like Pennsylvania, like Tennessee Bushcrafter said, uh, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Maryland, like from Pennsylvania down through Tennessee, especially if you know where to look down into Georgia and some of the states more south of that. There's so much history to be. There's actually more history that got forgotten than is actually known about. So it's kind of interesting when you find that history because now you got it kind of gives you something to try to put together. Like how did that work? How did this work? What went on with that? What went on with this? Ooh. Um, like there's another thing out around North Park I forgot to bring up. It's a haunted road called Blue Mist Road. Um, and that one is I didn't see the haunting on it, but I have walked that one at night. And let me tell you, it gets interesting. And the name Blue Mist is apt. For some reason, just in that area, when the fog starts rising in the summertime at night, you get that little bit of a fog at night. You hit it with the flashlight. It is almost like a baby blue. Like yeah, it's a lot of times when you hit mist with the light, it kind of has like a bluish haze to it. This is more blue than normal, so it's creepy. Well, T-Board, the only thing you have to do is plant a freedom seed in a feral hog. But like I said before, when it comes to feral hogs, there's nothing wrong with free range bacon. I'm sure the people that have the feral hogs don't see it the same way, but we don't have them up here in Pennsylvania yet. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. But what I think I'm going to do, because I think I'm probably going to go for about another 5 minutes or so. Actually, it's only going to go an hour. We're at an hour and 18. I can still keep rolling here a little bit. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Rachel. Yeah, I'm in Southwest Pennsylvania, so there's not too many battle sites, but we do have like Fort Necessity. Bushy Run was a battle site at one point in time. I can't remember if that was Revolutionary War or Civil War, but that was and that was in Westmoreland County. But we do have something out here in Washington County that I've been to once. I definitely want to go back. It's called Meadowcroft Rock Shelter. I talked about that last week. And what that was is it dates back, I think, 19,000 years. That's how long the Native Americans were using it. And that was about the end of the last ice age. Um, it was kind of like a stopover point for Native Americans nomadic Native Americans. They would stop there and rest, maybe hunt, do some hunts out in the area for food. That there's a stream that was right there, so they're probably getting catching fish and smoking fish as well. Um, so there's a lot of different resources there, and once they gathered up all those resources and they're ready to go, they would go again. Oh, that's cool. Um, Been to Fort Necessity, but I was real low. I would like to go back to Fort Necessity again. That's down by Uniontown. Um, I think I can't remember the name of the fort here in Beaver. It wasn't Fort Beaver. I can't remember the name of the fort, but there's a fort that was in Beaver. And the only thing that's left is the outline on the ground. They outlined the whole fort on the ground. And there was a fort up at Point State Park in Pittsburgh. Oh, okay. Yeah, in Stagecoach, uh, I used to have a map of the stagecoach routes here in Pennsylvania, and those were rather interesting about where they went. Um, Especially when we went up to the northern territories of Pennsylvania. It depending on where you're at. If you're out around where my uncle's camp is at, you're either going straight up or straight down. But if you're over by where we used to have where our old hunting camp was at, over around Marionville, as long as you stayed on the plateaus, you were fine. Marionville, not mountains, is all flat land up there. The only time you get any valleys is where there's a creek cutting through. You kind of drop down where the creek was, you come back up, back up to the same elevation, and it is level as far as I can see. Very low, it just undulates. That's all it does, it just undulates. Just up and down. Just very low up, very low down, but it's kind of like going across the Great Plains states. Whereas you get over to where my uncle's camp is at, it's mountains. It's like where I live. It's actually they kind of considers the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. There, it's foothills too, but they're bigger, much bigger foothills. Like my uncle's camp is on the top of it's only 2,000 feet tall, but it's a 2,000 foot tall mountain. Oh, that's cool. That's history that's worth looking into. I have a lot of the old train route books, or old where the old train routes went, in book form back there, like three or four of them, and I think it's like a 12 book set. So yeah, I mean, old train history just that kind of trips my trigger because it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to see where they went. And the other thing I look at is kind of good to know where those routes went because even those older railroad beds are still very much passable. Yeah, that's the same way they are here. They're not exactly like the Rocky Mountains. In fact, I don't think the Appalachian. A fact about the Appalachian Mountains is the Appalachian Mountains is either the oldest or the second oldest mountain range in the world. At one point in time, they actually rivaled or slightly taller than the Rocky Mountains. But the forces that created the Appalachian Mountains are no longer in play, where the Rocky Mountains, which is extremely young, in fact, I think it's either the youngest or second youngest in the world, is still growing. The subduction is still pushing the mountains up. Whereas the Appalachian Mountains is with the wind and the water, they're actually getting worn down. So in the Appalachians, you're not going to find a naturally ball topped, snow capped mountain. They just don't exist in the Appalachian Mountains. Maybe Mount Washington up in New England is going to be your best bet for that if you're looking for that, because I think Mount Washington does go above the tree line. But like any mountains from like New York on down to the bottom of the Appalachian chain, I think they're all going to have trees from bottom to top. The only mountain that's even close to being bald in Pennsylvania was cleared by man to make a 360-degree overlook, which is kind of cool in and of itself. But that's going to be an hour 25. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it right there. I think, isn't Courtney having a live stream here in about 5 minutes? I think she is, not sure. But yeah, I actually remember hearing about that, Belly. That, I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, and it's kind of sucks with the museums tend to do that. I had a couple rocks here that I wanted our local museum to look at. So, oh, we'll take them and catalog them. I'm like, I want to know. Courtney is a Wide Family Farm. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump off here because I want to jump in that one for a little bit before I go to bed. It's been a very long day for me, so I'm probably only going to be in there for 15 minutes to half an hour before I take off. So, but hey, I thank you all for coming. I love you all. I'll definitely have something lined up for next week, whether it's going to be that book or something else. Like, well, I may pick something out of that book and kind of do a deep dive on it and see what I can find on it. But other than that, that's all I got for you for tonight. So I love you all. I thank you all for coming. And I will see you guys hopefully on Friday. Talk to y'all later.